I'm dealing with the immigration and wandering of modern architectural ideas and aesthetics from Europe to Palestine, Israel. And I'm doing it with Zeev Rechter's architecture. Jewish architects educated in Europe immigrated to Palestine, Israel before and during the Second World War from obvious reasons. They carried with them design ideas and aesthetic language of modern architecture, which emerged in those years in Europe. Modern architecture and the international style were domesticated and spread with extraordinary speed in the land of Israel in the 30s and 40s, influenced by the Bauhaus school and renowned architects like Martin Gropius, Mies van der Rohe, and Le Corbusier. I'll deal mostly in Le Corbusier influence on Rechter. So I examined the revelation of the modern architectural language and the international style in the Land of Israel version, trying to ask if there is a Land of Israel version for the modern architectural language. And I'm asking what was adopted and fully imported from the planning values and from the modernist dictionary, and what has been neglected, transformed, and changed in its journey to Israel. So my case study is Zeev Rechter, and I'm mostly dealing with Bet Engel, the Engel House, which is right behind me. Then I'll talk a little bit about the Israeli pavilion, if I'll have time. So the international style is often called in Israel Bauhaus, after the German school founded in Weimar, and then moved to Dachau. It was closed in 1933 by the Nazi regime. So this style was influenced, as I said, by Ludwig Mies van der Rohe and Le Corbusier and Walter Gropius, which was the head of the Bauhaus school. The founders of the style and their successors drew an architectural idea based on functionality and minimalism, abstraction and geometry. They sought to combine the technological spirit of their new age with social utopias. Being the most dominant architectural style of modernism, utopia, the international style suited the Zionism, rationalism, formal and material simplicity, and restraint befell the socialist and secular values of the movement, which aspired to be a country. The international style has a distinct expression on the new country landscape. So Zeev Rechter was born in Nikolaev in Ukraine. When he was very young, he started to study civil architecture in Ukraine. But 3 years, when he was in his third year, he immigrated to Palestine. He then completed his studies in Rome, and the time in Rome was very influential on him because he was noticing the modernist avant-garde in Rome. The most influential time on his work was his time in Paris. He works and studied in Paris for about 4 years, and there he saw in real time Le Corbusier activity. In 1933, after he came back to Israel, to Palestine, Israel, he built the Engel House, so I'm asking how are foreign aesthetic values of European modernism manifested in the Zeev Rechter Engel House in Palestine, Israel. So this is the Engel House, which stands on Rothschild Boulevard in Tel Aviv, one of the main boulevards in Tel Aviv. So I'm comparing the Engel House to the works of Le Corbusier, and it's easy to do it I will start with the 5 points of new architecture that Le Corbusier founded in 1926. These 5 points of new architecture that Le Corbusier founded is easy to, it's easy to see them on Villa Savoie. So I'm using it, I'm comparing the Engel House to Villa Savoie, which is located in the outskirts of Paris. So on the right, you will see Le Corbusier's works, and on the left, Rechter's works. I'm starting with the first point of new architecture, which is the pilotis. That the building is, the mass of the building is upraised on pillars, it's floating on pillars. You can see that on the Engel House and also in Le Corbusier's works. And the second point is the free plan, because the ceiling are carried on pillars and not on bearing walls. So the architect can play with the spaces inside the building. The third point is the free facade, because there are the walls, the outside walls are not holding the ceilings, and the architect can play with the facade. So we can see that in the Engel House, Rechter played with he made like three-dimensional volume games in the facade. The fourth point is the strip windows. It's like long longitudinal, horizontal windows. You can see it also in both works. Also the strip windows in the Engel House, the window box breaks through the corner of the building and breaks the axis of symmetry. The bumps break the entry of direct sunlight into the apartments. Beneath the window, you can see it here, beneath the window strip, there's a stored niche in the concrete wall. Fifth point of new architecture is the flat roof, which is used as a garden or solarium, and in the Engel House it is used also for a gym. There are a few details, or many details, that are very similar in the Engel House to the works by Le Corbusier, like the floating concrete beam, which you can see here, which appeared also in Weisenhof Estate in Stuttgart, and also in Villa Savoie and many of Le Corbusier's works. And the balconies are also similar to what Le Corbusier did before, but in Tel Aviv they are used to ventilate. They are ventilated but maintain privacy in front of the street. The geometric language is also similar. We can see the box and the cylinder in both works, and the materials are also the same. The use of concrete and brick walls, plastered and painted white. Here we can see a picture of the Engel House before the conservation. This is what the White City really looks like, but we can see that they work with the same materials, also with glass and iron. To summarize it, so we can see that Rechter is faithful to the 5 points of new architecture formulated by Le Corbusier, and the Engel House fulfills the geometric shapes of the international style. Many details are very similar to the buildings of Le Corbusier, but some details are distinguish the Engel House from the European counterpart, from the European influences. Most of these details are connected to the local warm climate of Tel Aviv. And as I said, the materials are also the same. So we can say that bringing the international style to Palestine, Israel was a kind of a solution for local conditions. First of all, the weather, the warm weather and the sun, It helps the ventilation and shading of the flats. The space, the fact that the buildings are raised on pillars provides an open and ventilated space under the buildings. Efficiency, the materials are the concrete and the materials are kind of cheap. They are low cost. They are low cost and easy to executions. So it was very suitable for the new Hebrew settlement. And finally, the aesthetics. It was a new and white character for a young city. The plaster and lime shining in the sun, and the contrast created the openings and bumps was against the ornamentation of the academy and the local tradition. According to Zeev Rechter, in the 30s and 40s, modernism was brought to Palestine as a style, only as a style, like a cosmetic thing. It changed, in his opinion, it changed. The change was only in small scale. The pattern remained suburban and anti-monumental. Evidently, the 5 points of Le Corbusier, which originally referred to domestic architecture like villas, have become an accepted pattern in the design of apartments, building, and urban construction guidelines. Whereas the radical urbanism offered by Le Corbusier did not influence and did not manifest itself in those years, but only rather later. That's it.